obsessed with Peter Pan, but I love Wendy more. Why? Because they are such iconic characters. Relatable, authentic, complex. So much so they continue to speak to us today, being reinvented repeatedly. JC, how we write new versions of these characters using inspiration from these movies. I will break down how each version creates iconic characters using characterization. And as the movies I'm covering today are all inspired by the same source material, we can see the nuance each decision brings to the overall story. But first, a bit of history. J.M. Barrie's original Peter Pan had him as a villain, kidnapping children from their beds. That's quite different from the Peter we know now. Early on, Peter Pan was selfish, devoted to his own entertainment. He was also incapable of taking care of himself, except in battle. As for Wendy, she did not fit in with her surroundings, but was still determined to participate and thrive. She fights against the temptation of the island, Neverland, choosing to keep her memories in age rather than forgetting and never growing up. Over the years, characters have been reinvented to reflect the times. As you will see, the adaptations I'm exploring today are Walt Disney's 1953 animation, where Wendy and her brothers are whisked away to the magical world of Neverland with the hero of their stories, Peter Pan. PJ Hogan's 2003 live action, where the darling family children receive a visit from Peter Pan, who takes them to Neverland, where an ongoing war with the evil pirate Captain Hook is taking place. Disney's 2023 live action where Wendy Darling, a young girl afraid to leave her child home, meets Peter Pan, a boy who does not want to grow up. Alongside her brothers, she travels with Peter to Neverland on a thrilling adventure that will change her life forever. And just because it's the greatest, Steven Spielberg's 1991 sequel of sorts. When Captain James Hook kidnaps his children, an adult Peter Pan must return to Neverland and reclaim his youthful spirit to challenge his old enemy. So, think of a happy thought and let's go!
Off to Neverland!
JC, what is characterization? It's a tool to bring your characters to life. How? Well, it helps you, the writer, understand everything about your character. It will also help you guide the audience making their conclusions about a character. J.M. Barrie needed to understand how Peter and Wendy's personalities and outlooks on life would drive the plot forward, and how his choices about his characters would help guide the audience. Characterization includes the physical makeup of your character, such as age, height, gender, or lack of gender, and even what species they are, like Tinkerbell, fairy. Also included in this are tangible things like mannerisms, posture or hand movements, like this. How they dress, how they sound, what vocabulary they use. I mean, look at how the slight differences in appearance influence how we read Captain Hook as a character. Characterization also includes things related to personality, like intelligence, emotional makeup, values, and attitudes. I have so much to say about this for Peter Pan, I assure you. What about the roles the characters have within the world of the story? Yes! Think about things like family situation, finances, friends, job, etc., etc. I have so much to say about this for Wendy, I assure you. Another important aspect of characterization is backstory. By that, I mean everything that has happened to your character before the movie starts. Seriously, in the Peter Pans we will look at today, it is probably the most influential aspect on the story. Anyway, all this, physical makeup, personality, role, and backstory are the context that makes a character. Context that makes the audience identify and hopefully relate with that character. Hot tip! There's this thing called indirect characterization. Instead of Wendy saying, "Oh Peter, you're so childish," which is direct characterization, instead we see him do this.
What did she say?
She says you're a big ugly girl.
Oh.
Both convey the same message. But I know which one is more fun to watch. Audiences want indirect characterization that allows them to make their own discoveries about the characters. Anyway, let's take a look. In 3 of the adaptations, Peter Pan's physical makeup is that of a young boy. How he moves and sounds is very playful and spirited. I mean, he can fly. He chases his shadow, and how he dresses speaks to his adventures, with feathers, leaves, and even the sword or dagger he carries on his person. His personality is youthful and open, if somewhat self-absorbed. He loves to hear stories about himself.
But I know lots of stories. Stories I could tell the boys.
Come with me.
He doesn't know what a kiss is. His role is that of a leader. He has no family, but a group of youngsters do look up to him. His constant companion is a fairy. Regarding his backstory, the basics is that he's a boy who ran away from home to avoid growing up. Anyway, I hope you can see the similarities in characterizations thus far. Steven Spielberg's Peter Pan starts as a dull and neurotic adult with no memory of his adventures in Neverland, but he comes to embody most of the same traits as the other Peter Pans later in the movie. Now let's look at the differences in characterization. The 1953 Peter Pan, like the original, is depicted as selfish and devoted to his own entertainment. However, here they reinvented infant into a teen, a trend we will continue to see. Regarding his physical makeup, the biggest difference is his red hair. What an easy way to lean into stereotypes and let your audience know that they're dealing with a fiery young boy. Yeah, use stereotypes to help build your character, just as long as not every characterization is a stereotype. Peter Pan's personality has also shifted into a youth who is resourceful and spunky. He seems much more capable of caring for himself and others than the source material.
Look out!
So, how do these characterizations affect the overall plot? Well, it portrays Peter Pan as a righteous and rather one-dimensional hero. I mean, he's often rescuing Wendy, which truly speaks to the 1950s beliefs on women, but more on that later. The 2003 Peter Pan keeps the teen trend going. His physical makeup has also shifted into a cheeky and charming youth. Look at his wild hair, dirty fingers, and expressive physicality. His personality has also evolved into a slightly less self-absorbed character, and we get to see his fears and insecurities in a far more devastating way than the 1953 version.
Don't you understand, Tink? You mean more to me than anything in this whole world.
Forgive me, Tink. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Tink. Please forgive me. Tink!
Why is that, JC? It is his backstory characterization that changes this.
Oh no, he cannot love. It's part of the riddle of his being.
Let me explain. Peter pretends he and Wendy are mother and father to the Lost Boys, but runs from the possibility of a meaningful relationship with Wendy.
It's only make-believe, isn't it?
As an audience, we think it is because he cannot love. But the truth is, he can love, and he loves Wendy.
Does feel. He feels about you.
Unlike the source material and the 1953 version, which has Peter Pan showing a child's love, like he forgets you exist if you're not around, and is often focused on how you make him feel, etc., etc. The 2003 version explores a different, more serious kind of love.
I'm afraid the window's barred.
I'll call out her name.
She can't hear you.
No.
She can't see you.
Wendy!
Which is also reflected in his relationship with Tinkerbell. Hey. His love for Tinkerbell develops to a place where he sees them as equals. How does this characterization affect the overall plot? Well, we get an insight into Peter Pan's decision to keep his feelings hidden and limited, despite his understanding and perhaps longing for what comes next as an adult.
I want always to be a boy and have fun.
You say so, but I think it is your biggest pretend.
It is why I find the ending so bittersweet when Peter and Wendy part ways.
You won't forget me, will you?
Me? Forget? Never.
I still vouch this is the greatest love story that almost was. The The 2023 Peter Pan has wide-eyed looks, a monotoned voice, and stiff physicality. But when it comes to his personality, he embodies more of the essence of the original character.
It's not half bad being a pirate. It's far better being me.
So much so, he is the most obnoxious and unlikable version of Peter Pan so far. That's just my opinion, but yeah.
I'm Peter Pan. I don't ever need help.
Yet, his personality helps create an arc where he learns to accept help from his friends.
No magic, no tricks. Just a little help from my friends.
Again, this is significantly shaped by the backstory choices, like how he is responsible for his once friendship with Captain Hook going sour. Peter Pan realizes his mistake and apologizes to his friend. So, how does this characterization affect the overall plot? Well, we get to see how lonely Peter Pan has become without the guidance of an adult, especially his mother. But it also dramatically affects the characterization of Wendy, which I will get to, I promise. As I said earlier, the 1991 Peter Pan comes to embody a more youthful spirit. But first, they have fun with the characterization. The boy who doesn't want to grow up equals a man who is a father. Playful equals strict and dull. Loves flying equals fear of flying.
Peter Pan has a real problem with height.
This characterization affects the overall plot because basically making Peter Panning the opposite of Peter Pan means he must undergo the most remarkable transformation before our very eyes. Also, the backstory characterization has been tweaked to make Peter Pan's motivation for growing up more believable. Another hot tip! Take care when guiding your audience with indirect characterization. You don't want them to miss important clues about your characters if their reading of them is so far off. This could leave gaps in their understanding of the story, diminishing their experience, which isn't what we want. An example is Smee, Captain Hook's literal right-hand man, which is the reading we get from the 1953, 1991, and 2003 versions. But imagine if we didn't learn about the background characterization of Smee in the 2023 version.
I'd have surely perished, were I not saved by this man here.
It means we would miss out on such an important part of Captain Hook's characterization, and therefore Hooky may not be a sympathetic character affecting the whole story.
Just think happy thoughts.
I haven't got any.
For my mash, I will take inspiration from what about Wendy's characterization? Let's take a look. In 3 of the adaptations, Wendy's physical makeup is that of a young girl. How she moves and sounds is very endearing and resourceful. I mean, she's imaginative and obsessed with stories and handy with a needle. Her personality is curious and critical. She is fascinated and scared by what it means to grow up on the cusp of change herself.
What is it that you're afraid of, my love? I want things to stay the way they are.
Now, due to society's views on women and girls, Wendy's characterization has changed over the years, which we will soon explore, but I can safely say her role is a daughter and a sister to 2 brothers. She also sleeps in the nursery with her 2 brothers. Her backstory, like Peter Pan's, differs from movie to movie or isn't even explicitly shared. So the only similarity I can give is that she grew up on stories about Peter Pan.
I'll teach you to cut off me hand.
Oh, no, John. It was the left hand.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Wendy.
Anyway, I hope you can see the similarities in characterization thus far. Aha! Now, let's look at the differences. The 1953 Wendy is a simplified version of the original complex character, where she is portrayed as her most motherly self.
Good.
You can be our mother.
Her perfect ringlets, sweet blue dress, slippers, and delicate movements are sweet, but also reductive when you understand the oppression of the time. Wendy is championed as a young girl who only wants to be a mother.
I bring your mother to tell you stories.
Mother?
Wendy can be a mother if she wants, but just give her the same multiple options as her brothers. But oh no, girls are only good and valuable when they grow up to be mothers. Look at her, she clucks and coos over the Lost Boys. Even at home, her role is more of a young mother rather than sister or daughter. It's a capsule of the time and it's ick. Backstory? What backstory? So how does all this characterization affect the overall plot? Well, rather than showing a child struggling with her wants and desires, Wendy's story is undermined. Her resourcefulness is reduced to domestic labor. Her curiosity about motherhood. And Peter Pan comes to rescue her so many times.
Peter, you saved my life.
Because a young girl is expected to look after everybody else but can't possibly save herself. She is lumped in with Tinkerbell and Tiger Lily, the other oppressed women of this story, to serve as plot devices to Peter Pan and his story.
Girls talk too much.
Yes, girls talk to... Oh.
Don't get me wrong, this adaptation is impressive. I loved it growing up. It's just outdated in many ways. Many ways.
Being thin. No, please. Too good for us, eh?
Hot tip. Challenge the origins of your characterizations. Would a specific value make a great addition to your character? Or are you just perpetuating a harmful narrative from society? Of course, things are constantly progressing, as they should, so I understand that writers may not know what they don't know. But using your critical cap and not just your creative one is always a good idea. Tinkerbell is another character who has suffered from this. From body shaming to not having a voice. Anyway, hopefully you get the idea. Moving on. The 2003 Wendy captures more of the essence of the original character. Yay! She does not fit in with her surroundings in England or Neverland, but she is still determined to flourish in them. Her physical makeup is vastly different from the 1953 version, thank goodness. She is a youth who suits the oppressive period of when this movie is set, looking smart and sophisticated like a young lady should. But at home, she's a little more unkempt in her nightgown. She plays dress-ups, look at her bare feet. She even has costume additions once in Neverland, like the leafy belt and feather in her hair. Her personality brims with curiosity and a desire for adventure. This shows through when she gets in trouble at school and when she tells her auntie she wants to become an author.
Just write a great novel in 3 parts about my adventures.
She is still nurturing towards her brothers and the Lost Boys, but more in a sisterly way, not a motherly one. It's rather tongue-in-cheek.
I suggest something far more dreadful. Medicine.
And we get to see her fears and insecurities. She's apprehensive about growing up and the things she'll have to leave behind. Yet she's fascinated by her future too.
There is so much more.
What? What else is there?
I think it becomes clearer when you grow up.
Well, I will not grow up.
Her backstory supports this, which the narrator clues us in on.
Mrs. Darling was the loveliest lady in Bloomsbury, with a sweet mocking mouth that had one kiss on it that Wendy could never get.
If I knew I had the power to give someone the utmost confidence from a kiss, yeah, I'd be curious to bestow it on someone too.
This belongs to you, and always will.
So, how does this characterization affect the overall plot? Wendy's characterization now demands she be an active participant in the story, unlike the 1953 version. So much so, she pushes Peter Pan's arc along with her personality and backstory characterization. We get to experience her debate over complex things, like emotions of loyalty and love, eventually deciding that to grow up is the greatest adventure of all. This adaptation is Peter Pan's story, but the characterization of Peter Pan and Wendy makes it impossible to untangle them, which is why it is a young love story that does not feel contrived for the plot's sake. I did not know what to expect for the 2023 Wendy, as she had some big shoes to fill, but she did not disappoint. Oh no, she did not.
Wendy can be our mother. Goodness, no. I don't even know if I want to be a mother.
She's feistier and heartier, reflected in the more masculine additions to her wardrobe but without losing an ounce of femininity. Her nightie includes pants. Her dressing gown is almost like a pirate jacket. Even her physicality is more rough and tumble, like a girl should be, if they want. Personality-wise, she is critical and spirited, yet she seems unsure of herself and her place today, not just for the future.
What if I don't want that life? What if I don't want your life?
Her mother even gives her this beautiful speech to console her.
Just imagine all the things you would miss out on if you didn't see where it took you, and all the things the world would miss if you weren't there to do them.
What I enjoy most about the 2023 Wendy is the role characterization, as this movie acknowledges the space between being a child and an adult, something that the other versions don't address.
My Wendy. A woman.
This space is currently where Wendy is, and she knows it. She even resists it initially, but comes to accept that she wants change to be inevitable.
Gabby thoughts.
There are some beautiful moments throughout where this comes into play, like when the Lost Boys notice.
She's too grown up, isn't she? Yep, isn't she?
When she engages Captain Hook in conversation, even doing the finger pointing thing that children see adults do, so then they do it too.
What's a Wendy?
I'm a Wendy, and I am from London, England. But gentlemen, do not harm children!
And when Wendy calls her brothers and the Lost Boys children, she deliberately excludes herself from this category.
Take me instead! They're only children, let them live!
So effective. What about backstory? Well, it's been decided she will go away to boarding school. At first, she does not want to go, but by the end, she realizes what a privilege it would be to go and to grow up.
I think that to grow up, why, it might just be the biggest adventure of all.
How does all this characterization affect the overall plot? Well, a lot. Now, if it's not already obvious, Peter Pan is invisible without Wendy in the original material. His story would not work without her. We meet her first because she is what grounds him in reality. The 1953 and 2003 versions are an example of this. But because of the bold choices of characterization for Wendy in the 2003 version, it becomes her story. She is the protagonist. All the key beats center around her. She is the one who inspires Peter Pan to grow.
But surely it can't be as simple as that.
Why not?
Because nothing ever is.
It is less about a story of Peter Pan's eternal youth and more about Wendy's realization that growing up is more satisfying than make-believe.
Just think of all the things that could be right around the corner that you're missing out on. Think of what the world is missing out on, with you not being there to do them.
The 1991 Wendy's physical makeup is vastly different. She has grown up. A grandmother who relies on a cane to walk. But how she dresses and does her hair still reflects the time of her youth. Perhaps saying that time can't change all. Even her personality reminds us of the young Wendy. She's caring and cheeky.
Peter, you've become a pirate.
Her role has organically grown from a nurturing sister into a woman who has dedicated her life to rehoming orphans. Of course, the girl who encouraged the Lost Boys to leave Neverland and grow up might take this path. It just makes sense. Great characterization. As for her backstory, in addition to her childhood adventures, we learned she grew up, had children, and was responsible for finding Peter's adoptive parents. Because she did decide to grow up the way she did, it makes sense that she is the one who tries to encourage Peter to rescue his children.
Only you can save your children. Somehow you must go back.
How does all this characterization affect the overall plot? Well, it is through Wendy's eyes that we understand the story's stakes. Like how much Peter the adult has lost his way, why it is so important for him to go back to Neverland, and what danger awaits him there. Without a character who knows Peter so well, the story would feel flat, perhaps unbelievable.
That was when you decided not to go back to Neverland.
Where?
To Neverland.
Remember, in the original material, Wendy is responsible for grounding Peter in reality, whether that's London's reality or, in this case, Neverland's reality.
Peter, don't you know who you are? Yes, boy.
The audience is guided by Wendy's belief. She believes, we do too. Hot tip. Also think about the characterizations of your locations. Look at Neverland. Its physical makeup and personality changes with each adaptation too. In some of the versions, it's clearly linked with Peter Pan, returning to spring each time he returns home. I return home. I'm Peter Pan. Isn't that obvious? For a more specific example, look at the tree house. For my mash, I will take inspiration from until the next smash, bye! How they sound, what vocabulary they use, vocabulary. Characterization also includes... Let's take a look. Oh my god. Please subscribe. I'm having so much fun making these movie mashes. I want everyone to enjoy them. To infinity and beyond! Oh, should I do one on Toy Story?